this thing called consciousness, right? That's a huge lie for Nietzsche. Number 4, morality as the denial of all things biological. We know that. And number 5, truth as revealed truth. And I talked about some of the complications that arrive in this belief. Okay. What I'm going to do is to extend the last picture that I drew, but I'm not going to draw the whole thing again because I did it in the last series. I'm just going to draw the new bits. So remember we said that we have the idea of good and evil, and that within the mind of the moral agent is the notion of good and evil, but also consciousness, C-O-N-S, right? But also the idea of conscience, right? So that we say an individual has a conscience. And this is a lie. We just saw that. That was, I think, number 3 on the list, right? So Nietzsche says, and actually, let me see if I can find. Yeah, I actually want to read just a little bit so you can get a sense of the importance of conscience, right? Bottom of well, page numbers. If you're following along in this text, it's page 90. The bottom of page 90. This is note 141. Quote: the holy lie, therefore, invented 1. A God who punishes and rewards, and I just erased it. 2. Who punishes and rewards, who strictly observes the law book of the priest and is strict about sending them into the world as his mouthpiece and pontaries. Sorry about that. Number 2, an afterlife in which the great punishment machine is first thought to become effective, right? So this idea of punishment is thought to become effective. To this end, the immortality of the soul. Okay, talked about that. Number 3, conscience in man as the consciousness that good and evil are permanent, that God himself speaks through consciousness, when it advises conformity with priestly precepts, and on and on and on. Okay, so that this idea of good and evil serves, again, as I said, as a precondition for consciousness. And, you have the good angel, the bad angel, and God is telling you to do good things, the devil's telling you to do bad things, and that's what governs sort of how we operate within the world. It's a great fairy tale, it's a great nursery rhyme, according to Nietzsche. The truth is, there is no such thing as conscience, right? You don't have a conscience. You want to believe you have a conscience, but anytime we challenge the idea of conscience with stories like Beloved, now we have to say, yeah, I mean, what ought I to do in that act, right? I think I would do exactly what Suther did. I might not bash my kid's brains in on a wall, but maybe suffocating my child might be the best thing to do. It's a horrible thing to say, but it's less horrible than allowing my child to live in slavery, right? So that concept challenges the very notion not only of good and evil, but it challenges the concept of conscience. Do we really have this thing called a conscience? Okay, for me, that's just like super important, so that's why I'm sort of harping on it. Okay, now, this level of sort of lie, construction of conformity, right? This idea of internalizing consciousness, this idea of good and evil, is used by the sacerdotal class, by the priestly class, as a means of controlling population. In note 137, he says that sort of below the sacerdotal class are the poets and the noble families, right? And it would be noble families. Right? So we have the sacerdotal class, the priests, C-E-R-D-O-T-A-L. We have the sacerdotals, right? We have the poets and the nobles, and then we have the masses. Right? So we have sort of a three-tiered, if you want to call it, class system, right? So in terms of Platonic discourse, you might have the philosopher kings, you can have a warrior class, you can have a merchant class, You can have an upper class, you can have a middle class, you can have a lower class, you get the idea, right? So the sacerdotal class, the poets and noble families, and then the masses. The masses are always aspiring to move up, right? Masses are always aspiring to move up, right? And what ends up happening, our poets recognize that they too, everybody is aspiring to move up, because we recognize that control rests at the top of this sort of class-based, if you will, structure. Power is diffused, right? Power is given. I make an appeal, the sacerdotal class makes an appeal to God, right? God gives power to this class. They in turn disseminate that power and use that power to control others downward, and you have this sort of this cyclical system, right? Power commands, obligations ought, right? This is obligation, right? Obligations, you ought, you must, you must, you must, you must, you must, you must, right? So obligations go downward, power is diffused downward, and all eyes are focused upward, right? All eyes look to the class immediately above to get cues on how I ought to act. And this really hasn't changed, at all. At all. The masses, the vast majority of the masses, look to the poets, the entertainers, movie stars, celebrities, singers, musicians, artists, for their cues, right? They have massive amounts of power, right? So that a great singer can compel the masses to do whatever, basically whatever they want, right? I remember, Jay-Z, quick tangent, I remember Jay-Z, this is right when I was like 97, maybe, 97, 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there. I was in college, and I had come back home here to Miami, and I noticed everybody started rocking flat brim hats, and Jay was rocking flat brim. I was like, who in the world? And I saw all these young kids wearing flat brim hats, right? It might have even been earlier. Everybody started wearing flat brim hats, and I was like, I've always been, even to this day, I can't do it. I can't wear my brim flat. I'm hip-hop, but I'm not that hip-hop, right? And I remember everybody started wearing flat brim hats, and I'm like, you gotta bend your brim. And I remember it was the oddest thing. And now, the worst thing that you can do is to go buy a hat and then, bend your brim. So when I go to the store and I get the hat and I bend it, everybody's looking at me like, what are you crazy? Where did the masses get their social cue on bending their hats? From the rappers, right? Jay-Z and others, primarily Jay, to my knowledge, started wearing flat brim hats, and everybody decided, okay, I'm going to start wearing my brim flat. I'm not going to bend it, right? So the rulers, those in control, want to make sure that they can express power on the entertainers, right? It's the entertainers that control the masses. So if we control the entertainers, then we control the masses indirectly, right? So we're going to tell the entertainers what to wear, how to dress, what music to put out, and so on. Which is why the genre of hip hop is basically the way it is. I don't particularly dislike it. I think it is the way it is because society needs sort of poppy bubblegum rap right now. But there's good gangster and ghetto hip hop still out there. But we recognize that the appeal is the same, right? The poets, the influence that they had back in antiquity, and the problems that Plato had with the poets and how they controlled the masses via song and entertainment, is the same influence that they have over the masses today. And if you want to look at the church as a class has huge contentions with entertainers, right? It's because of the entertainment industry, it's because of the music, it's because of the horrible games, and it's because of all of these bad things, all of these vehicles of entertainment, why the masses are as depraved as they were. We can transform the depravity of the masses if our poets, our entertainers, would appeal to a higher cause, and so on, right? So the point is to recognize that there is contemporary applicability of this paradigm to our contemporary entertainment industry, our contemporary understanding of class structure, our contemporary